So you ended up wondering what interaction design is and ended up here. Don't worry, I got you covered. Funnily enough, if you ask 5 different designers, you will get 5 different answers. As someone studying it, I can confidently say I don't really know the answers either. I can tell you it is more than just making websites, creating buttons and sliders, or wireframes. Sometimes it's about how a door functions, game mechanic works, car interior is designed, or so much more. So yeah, I don't really know, and it hurts my brain. But hear me out. I've broken this into 8 main sections. Why listen to me? My motivation for posting this, existing definitions, related fields, principles versus characteristics, my own definition, how I use it, and how you could get started too. Who am I and why listen to me? As a former electronics technician that chose to go down the path of learning interaction design, I have a lot of experience in fields that are not really interaction design, but at the same time, maybe they are. This gives me a unique perspective, and I promise I will explain to you what interaction design is, or at least what I think it is. I started studying interaction design in 2024 at Malmö University, leaving me with 1 year left before I finish my degree. This is why I feel that although I can answer the question what is interaction design, I do not think I have the perfect answer. If you want the perfect answer, I would kindly refer you to places like the Interaction Design Foundation for a more industry-sided view, or for example, Coco's Thoughts on Interaction Design. Or you can decide between one of the following definitions I will mention in just a little bit. If you do end up liking this video, please do leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share to whoever you think should see this. I would really very much appreciate to hear what experts in the field think, because this is a student's perspective. But why am I talking about this? I've gotten a lot of questions about this on my other posts where I explain what I study. I personally have some gripes with some of the definitions that do exist, specifically on YouTube, but as a very brief version, they are too narrow or seemingly undervalue what interaction design is and oftentimes diminish it as a whole. The important thing for me is that I have had a lot of people asking me personally, so what is or isn't interaction design? Interaction design is a lot of things. There are many perspectives that are constantly redefining the field, but there are some notable definitions to look towards. The term interaction design was coined by Bill Mogridge and Bill Verplank back in the 1980s. Is it Verplank? But that took quite a number of years before it started to catch on. Or is it Verplank? They defined it as being concerned with subjective and qualitative values, would start from the needs and desires of the people who use a product or service and strive to create designs that would give aesthetic pleasure as well as lasting satisfaction and enjoyment. Verplank? Even the experts can't really agree though. This early definition is not what interaction design is today. While it does have some of the elements of the field already clearly in focus, it fails in that it is very specific. I mean, it sounds like a German name, I'm sorry, and puts much too much emphasis on aspects like, for example, the emotions, specifically enjoyment and satisfaction. Might be Verplank. In Thoughts on Interaction Design, John Coco defines it a little bit differently. Interaction design is the creation of dialogue between a person and a product, system, or service. This dialogue is both physical and emotional in nature and is manifested in form, function, and technology. A simpler way of thinking about interaction designers is that they are the shapers of behavior. Interaction designers, whether practicing as usability engineers, visual interface designers, or information architects, all attempt to understand and shape human behavior. This is the purpose of the profession, to change the way people behave. He also states that interaction design does not need to be things like web design or other media types of design, and do not even need to be high-tech related design things. Although this is probably one of my favorite definitions I've found so far, it sounds a bit too similar to user experience design. That is also not wrong. As many have noted, interaction design does fall into the scope of UX design, but the mistake, in my opinion, is to consider interaction design as part of a user experience and not as two parallel fields that kind of overlap. If you look to the Interaction Design Foundations video on the matter, they explicitly state interaction design is part of UX. This is a very common thread in videos, especially where many are looking at it from a UX design or web design perspective. My opinion, as stated, is that they focus too much on specific aspects of interaction design and see it as a very business industry sided. There's also the fact that most of these are thinking about it in terms of principles and not the characteristics. So what is the main difference between characteristics versus principles? They generally talk about principles when they say this is how it must be. You must adhere to, like, ease of use is a very common one, enjoyability and satisfaction, having a consistency in interactions, that there's feedback and forward. There's a whole bunch of different key principles of interaction design according to the industry standards. So I don't see interaction design from that perspective, and these principles are extremely useful for certain types of interaction design, absolutely, but not all interaction design is even made for humans, and not all interaction design is made according to those principles. For example, there's fields called like critical design, which explores how one can make people think about things differently in a situation when, like, let's say a button isn't the way a button usually would be. When you use playful design in video games, for example, they love to use interaction design, and it might be something like non-player characters. But not all interaction design is made for humans. Not all interaction design is made according to those principles. For example, critical design explores how we can design things to make us stop and think critically about interactive experiences or designs. Or playful design might be completely inconsistent according to our standards. In games, for example, they also learn interaction design, and it might be used in a way to make non-player characters more or less predictable. In games, you will find enemies, for example, can either have tells or signs, or even clear signs, right, of their next actions. And on the other hand, you might have extremely random actions that are almost impossible to predict. Usually for the purpose of making games more fun, they choose to make it somewhere in between so as to create some level of challenge while still making it relatively easy to overcome. Different games, just like different products, use different approaches to this, where some take either extreme as part of the reason why their game is different and unique. The main characteristics of interaction designs are typically that they are in time, like they're temporal. There's a interactiveness or dialogue, as one may call it. There's a reactivity, and oftentimes there's a multidimensionality to the whole thing. This means that we design things that change through time, react in a dialogue with a human or non-human user, that interact with said product, design, thing, service, whatever it is, and can be often on multiple dimensions in the sense that it is not just digital but also physical. These interactions can be much more than just in the moment. They can be over many days, weeks, even years, depending on how you specifically look at interaction design. But most importantly, it is generally considered involving technology. It doesn't need to be advanced, but technology. It is broader than what they all say. Interaction design, in my opinion, is extremely broad. It doesn't just fall into categories like web design, app design, etc., but can be applied to so many different things, from public services like the library to how we use a car, instrument, or phone. It can even be a major element in physical spaces, and so much more. For some reason, a lot of people say it does not involve user research, but it absolutely does. Or that it fits into a very small pocket of design, like as a part of UX. It does fit into UX. but it also fits into product design, game design, industrial design, even like landscape architecture, culture and society. Interaction design is not just in the here and now, but expands across time as well, like I have previously mentioned. Working on interaction design can mean something as simple sounding as a fun way to light a cigar, or as complex as inventing a totally new instrument. It can be all about solving problems, but it can also be all about creating them too. How do I define it? Personally, I define interaction design very broadly, as you probably have figured out by now. Although I focus mostly on tangible interaction myself, I too have a big interest in mobile app development, etc. So the answer you have been waiting for, to me, interaction design is just a loop that includes both research and design elements from many fields, with a focus on how any kind of user interacts over time with different types of designs. This means I also do not consider a design ever truly finished. I might stop working on it, but that does not mean I think it cannot be changed. In a way, I consider the designs themselves interactive simply by existing, because through observation and their existence, they have some sort of impact on the world around them. That is a bit abstract, of course, and don't worry, I don't plan to make a video about that very abstract kind of thing right now, as well as I have a hard time wrapping my head around it to some extent. Right now, it's all about things that can act, move, react, have a sense in the world, however big or small that world is that I put them in, of course. I mean, it could be out in the public, or it could be in my kitchen, it could be my whole house. I mean, this is not a house, but you know what I mean. I hope this might have inspired you to look into interaction design a bit more, or maybe you are just waiting to see what else I plan to make. No worries, I will post videos about my designs. I will, however, also post videos that follow this format too, because I want to help people learn about things that I had a hard time myself with. To be clear, I am a student at the end of the day, so I don't think I have all the answers. I just think I have my answer. Thanks.
If you have any thoughts or questions, please go ahead and leave a comment. It would be super awesome to see what people have to say. Any questions you have, maybe you want some more specific details on certain things, whatever it might be, I'm happy to oblige. I will do my best to answer any questions.